The year I married Daniel. I had just graduated. He was 7 years older than me, successful in his career, and treated me with great care. He put me first in everything, even during arguments. He would be the first to back down and comfort me. That was until the veteran actress Evelyn returned to the country, and their interactions grew more frequent. It wasn't until I accidentally came across his dropped journal that I discovered all the kindness he showed me had been taught to him by Evelyn in the past. We fought countless times because of Evelyn. The last time, he left me behind in a snowstorm at a remote villa. That was when I finally gave up and asked for a divorce. But Daniel adamantly refused. Chapter 01. When Evelyn's calls kept coming in. Daniel was with me, soaking in a hot spring at the villa on the outskirts of Beijing. In the thin mist, a woman's tearful voice echoed through the quiet spring room. Danny, what do I do? Panicked and helpless, the sound made my heart clench. Just as Daniel's lips were about to touch mine, he finally couldn't help but stand up and climb the steps. Snowflakes drifted down onto his shoulders. He grabbed the bathrobe from the rack, put it on, and answered the call. His tone was reproachful at first, but after hearing something from the other end, it changed instantly, turning into a gentle comfort. It's okay, I'll be right there. Calm down first. I'm on my way. I watched as he ended the call and bent down to reach for me. I dodged him almost instinctively. Daniel's eyes landed on me and stayed silent for a long time. The snowflakes on his shoulders were slowly dissolved by the rising steam from the hot spring. Disappearing with them was the last thread of attachment I had for him. Chapter 02. I narrowed my eyes and sank deeper into the water, submerging myself entirely. Daniel's hand missed its target, but he didn't seem to mind and smiled lightly. He reached out again, ruffling my hair, his voice soft and tame. Listen, a friend ran into a bit of trouble. I'll come back as soon as I'm done. I'll make up for the time I missed tomorrow, okay? Can you not go? I asked. She just returned to the country. She's not familiar with the traffic laws. Listen, don't be unreasonable. I said nothing, watching him as he tied the sash of his robe and took off his ring. It felt like the ring on my own finger tightened and started to ache. I forced a bitter smile, wanting to ask him, what kind of friend requires you to take off your wedding ring just to see her? But the words stuck in my throat. As I lowered my eyes, I heard Daniel coo like he was comforting a child. I promise, I'll make time for my favorite wife tomorrow. I won't answer anyone's calls. In fact, I had a lot to say. Then I'll go. I'll teach her the traffic laws. Or, if you can ignore calls tomorrow, why go to her today? Or maybe, but in the end, I said nothing. Through the rising mist of the hot spring, I watched Daniel's hurried figure as he left. Just as he was about to step out the door, I suddenly spoke. No need to make it up. Next time you're free, let's get a divorce. Daniel paused in his steps, but he didn't turn around. He only said, listen, don't throw a tantrum. His tone was as gentle as always, as if coaxing a little girl who didn't know any better. Daniel and I had a family-arranged marriage. He was 7 years older than me. The year I married him, I had just graduated. In the company, he was the decisive and ruthless president's song. But to me, he treated me like a child, putting me first in everything. Even during arguments, he would be the first to yield and soothe me, until I accidentally came across Daniel's diary from his youth and learned. His skill in comforting others had been honed through countless breakups and makeups with his first love, Evelyn. After Evelyn returned to the country, the lofty Mr. Song humbled himself. He assembled a top-tier legal team to fight her divorce case, spent lavishly to pave the way for this has-been actress's comeback. We argued countless times because of this, and each time, without exception, I ended up crying and shouting, then let's divorce. Go be with her. And each time, without exception, Daniel would coax me back. But this time, I meant it. Chapter 03. Only when the aching in my chest faded did I climb out of the hot spring. After changing clothes, I called the driver to take me home. By the time I arrived, it was already the middle of the night, but the lights in the villa's living room were still on. Daniel's car was parked outside the yard. The front door of the villa was ajar. Warm yellow light streamed through the gap and fell on my hand. The moaning sounds from inside were just as unhidden. as if inviting me to peek into the secrets of the living room. I didn't move. I only heard Evelyn's delicate whimper. "It hurts. Danny, be gentle." "Sorry," Daniel replied in a low voice. I sighed, turned on my phone camera, and pushed the door open, snapped a few pictures of them on the sofa. In the photos, Daniel was still holding a cotton swab to apply ointment to Evelyn. I was a bit disappointed. After all, he was a man with a reputation. I should have known he wouldn't do anything too outrageous while still married. Evelyn seemed startled and immediately leaned closer to Daniel. Daniel stood up and looked at me. I shrugged. Quite a scene. Anyone might think this was a TV drama. Is every moment in a film queen's life this dramatic? Evelyn clutched Daniel's sleeve, almond-shaped eyes welling up. "Miss Lynn, could you please delete the photos? I was injured earlier, and Danny was just helping me apply medicine." Evelyn had fair skin, and the wound on her calf looked startling, but it was just that only looked serious. Daniel had rushed out so fast. I thought it was a major car crash. Turns out, it was just a minor scrape. I didn't move. Daniel looked at me, his expression calm. "Listen." Evelyn was hurt and afraid to look at the wound. I was only helping apply ointment. Couldn't she go to the hospital? It just happened that we had some medicine at home. My expression grew sarcastic. Daniel glanced at me, seemingly disappointed by my attitude. "Listen, don't be petty with me. Delete the photos." I lowered my gaze, tapped on my phone a few times, deleted the pictures, and showed them. "Happy now?" Evelyn pressed her lips together. "Sorry, Miss Lynn. It's just, if these photos got out, it wouldn't be good for either of us. Even if nothing's going on between Danny and me, others might." I had no patience for her. Went straight upstairs and closed the door. Evelyn's voice was cut off. I opened the home security app, rewound to an hour ago, and downloaded all the footage. Evelyn was a veteran actress. Even after being out of the spotlight for years, she still had a strong fan base in China. Since her return, rumors about her hadn't stopped, and those involving Daniel were even more intense. The domineering CEO and the returning first love, a match straight out of a second-chance romance novel. No one knew that Daniel and I had been secretly married for years. When I was younger, I believed everything between a couple should be spoken plainly. Because of his rumors with Evelyn, I fought with Daniel countless times. The rights and wrongs were never sorted. But Daniel only grew more exhausted. Sometimes, rubbing his brow, he would sigh softly. "Listen, why are you always so immature?" Daniel was 7 years older than me, calm and composed, gentle and refined. No matter what I did, he would always tolerate me. 3 years of marriage, we rarely argued. But must I really turn a blind eye and play dumb, just to be considered mature? Chapter 04. A knock came from the door behind me. Daniel's gentle voice followed. "Carolina." As doting as always, I pressed my lips together and didn't respond. Then I locked the door from the inside. The person outside understood my silence and didn't knock again. He only said warmly, "Sleep early, Carolina." I closed my eyes, but all I could think of was the thunder and lightning a few days ago outside the window. Daniel had once again left me behind to deal with something about Evelyn. I brought up old grievances, blaming him for hiding their past relationship. Daniel had said, "So what if she was my first love?" "Carolina, it's all in the past now. We're just friends. Stop making a fuss, okay?" What followed was an empty house, thunder rumbling outside, flashes of lightning, and a pillow soaked in tears. I pulled myself out of the memory and suddenly opened my eyes. The chandelier on the ceiling cast a warm orange glow. I picked up my phone and sent a message to my sister. "Introduce me to an entertainment reporter." Chapter 05. When I woke up the next morning, the only person in the living room was the housekeeper. Aunt Zhao greeted me. "Sir left early this morning. He said Miss has been craving bird's nest, so he asked me to prepare some." I nodded. After breakfast, I went to see a lawyer and asked her to draft a divorce agreement. The lawyer was a beauty, long curls, business attire, sharply capable. After hearing my story, she promised to do her best to secure what I was entitled to. I leaned back on the sofa and nodded. "Thanks. I don't need company shares. Just help me get the real estate and the savings." After she left, I had the driver take me out. I wandered for a while, at a busy crosswalk on a thriving shopping street. I suddenly stopped walking and looked up at the giant screen across the road. Evelyn's stunning face suddenly appeared. The people around me stopped too, marveling, she's so beautiful. The film queen, after all these years. She hasn't aged a bit. She's even more gorgeous. The screen was showing footage from the day she returned to the country. The media had caught wind early and were waiting at the airport. As soon as she appeared, they swarmed her. Evelyn looked flustered in the crowd. I had watched her old costume dramas. She played a breathtaking beauty who stirred chaos between monarchs of different nations. Almond eyes, willow brows, lips that curved in a soft smile. She looked like a naive little fox. When she frowned, even the viewers on the other side of the screen felt sorry for her. Years had passed, but her charm hadn't faded, even enough to win over my husband's heart. Suddenly, bodyguards appeared and cleared a path, escorting her safely out of the airport. She got into a Maybach. From the car, only half a sharply defined face was visible. A man reached out, his knuckles smooth as jade. Evelyn placed her hand on his. The bodyguard shut the door. What was left was a scene beautiful enough to be lifted straight from a billionaire romance novel. It sparked the imagination. I recognized it at a glance. That watch on the man's wrist, a Patek Philippe, was the birthday gift I had given Daniel. Anyone could upload videos to that giant screen. This one was probably posted by one of Evelyn's fans. At the end of the clip, a line appeared. No matter what, we just want you to be happy. The girl next to me squealed as she watched the video. What kind of romance story is this? The movie queen comes back, divorces, and finds the man who's loved her in silence all along. After all the twists and turns, it's still you. Woo-woo. Eve, you must be happy. I nearly burst out laughing. People nearby glanced at me, seemingly displeased. I smiled at them. What if her happiness is built on someone else's pain? What if the man already has a wife? Then wouldn't that make her a cheating homewrecker? The girl flushed red and argued. No way. Evelyn wouldn't do that. She's a really good person. If anything, it's because someone lied to her. I lowered my eyes and didn't argue. Maybe. Chapter 06. As the driver came to pick me up, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was from the lawyer who had just met with me, MSN. The first draft of the agreement was ready. Further revisions would require both parties' input. I thought for a moment, forwarded the file to Daniel, and told the driver to head to his office. Because I didn't visit often, the receptionist didn't recognize me. After I registered my information, she gave me an apologetic smile. You don't have an appointment, so I'm afraid you won't be able to see President Song. And your relationship with President Song is his wife. A snicker came from the side. I looked over to see a man in his 20s shooting me a mocking glance. He lowered his head and whispered with a laugh. Who is this? Delusional much? The real one's upstairs. How does she have the nerve to say that out loud? I could say I'm President Song's brother too. I didn't get angry. I turned to the receptionist and said, never mind, I'll just give him a call. But I dialed Daniel's secretary instead. Marco had once been my junior in school. We got along well. As soon as he got the call, he came downstairs to fetch me. Senior. I nodded. Just as the elevator door closed, he glanced sideways and said, Miss Sue just arrived. President Song is discussing something with the producer. He hesitated, then added, Senior, when I left earlier, I'm not sure if I closed the door. I wasn't stupid. I knew he was doing me a favor. When I reached the door, the voices inside were crystal clear through the gap. The director sounded troubled. President Song, we went through the proper selection process. After all, Miss Sue has been out of the industry for so long, and we don't know if she's qualified. Daniel's voice was firm and absolute. President Song, the director hesitated. Daniel named a figure, 20 million. The director immediately changed his tone. Absolutely. I've seen Miss Sue act before. Even if she's slipped a bit after all these years, she's still beyond what today's young actresses can match. I took a step back and gently closed the door. Chapter 07. When Daniel walked the producer out, I stood to the side, watching Evelyn walk right beside him. The two of them moved in sync, like a long-married couple. When Daniel turned and spotted me, he looked surprised. Carolina, what are you doing here? I didn't speak, but I didn't miss the flicker of irritation that crossed Evelyn's face. Carolina, Evelyn said. Danny did me a huge favor today, and I wanted to treat him to dinner. It's perfect that you're here. Let's all go together. I looked at her. Evelyn's eyes curved as she smiled, as if she were truly happy to see me. No sign of tension between us. I said, sure. A trio of 2 women and 1 man made us look especially out of place in the couple-themed restaurant. After ordering, Evelyn pushed the menu toward me. Sorry, Carolina, I don't know what you like. I was afraid I'd pick the wrong thing. Why don't you do it? I didn't move, but Daniel, sitting beside me, took the menu with a gentle look. I'll take care of it. He finished ordering, then softly reminded the waiter to avoid any of my allergies or foods I couldn't eat. Evelyn, sitting across from me, smiled and said, Carolina, I really envy you. Danny is so considerate now. He could never remember what I liked to eat back then. I got so mad once. Daniel coughed lightly. Evelyn immediately stopped. Sorry, I misspoke. I took a sip of my drink and said calmly, it's all right. I don't mind. The waiter arrived just in time to serve the food. Dishes gradually filled the table. There was seafood, crab, which can be tricky to handle. Daniel took my plate smoothly and began to crack the shells for me. Across the table, Evelyn's expression contorted for just a second. I leaned my cheek on my hand and watched her. She looked down and reached for another dish with her chopsticks. Daniel pushed the neatly prepared crab meat toward me, then picked up a towel to wipe his fingers with slow, practiced care. I used to love this side of Daniel, a refined man in public, yet tender and indulgent only in front of me. But now, knowing all of this had once been Evelyn's request, all I felt was disgust. Lise, Evelyn. Daniel suddenly stood up. I looked at her. That beautiful face of hers was flushed an alarming shade of red, her slim cheeks rapidly swelling. Was there yam in one of the dishes? I'm so sorry. I forgot you were allergic. Come on, I'll take you to the hospital. Evelyn froze for a moment, then suddenly covered her face with her hands. No, don't look at me. Daniel reacted fast, removing his blazer and draping it over her head. I'm not looking. I'm not. Let's go to the hospital. Evelyn wobbled as she stood, and Daniel hurriedly scooped her up in his arms. Cradling her, he rushed out. I watched, wide-eyed, as this scene played out like something from a primetime drama. Watched Daniel's expression filled with genuine anxiety. Watched as he carried the woman in his arms and, from beginning to end, didn't look at me once. I picked up my phone and sent a message to the entertainment reporter. The table was still full of food. No sense in letting it go to waste. I lowered my gaze and reached for a piece of yam from the dish Evelyn had just touched. It was soft, perfectly braised, delicious. Chapter 08. Daniel returned just as I was lying on the sofa with a face mask on. Exactly 8 o'clock. Just in time for my current favorite show. Reuniting with first love. The heroine, teary-eyed, asked the male lead, after all these years, you didn't think of me? Not even once? The male lead clenched his jaw. I did. Do you know how much I missed you? It drove me mad. He shouted the last line with such intensity that his face twisted. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. That was when the door opened, and I wasn't imagining things. I immediately noticed he had buttoned his shirt wrong. I looked away and returned to watching what I now considered my comedy show. Carolina, I'm sorry, Daniel said. I didn't mean to leave you at the restaurant. It was just an emergency. Evelyn's an actress. Her face is important. She can't afford to scar. I'm sorry, Carolina. I shifted on the sofa, getting more comfortable, spoke without looking at him. I sent you the draft of the divorce agreement this afternoon. I was going to discuss it in person, but now that you're here, take a look. Let's finish finalizing it tonight. Daniel looked exhausted. We're not getting a divorce, he said. Carolina. He stood in front of me and reached out to hold me. I caught a whiff of gardenia from his cologne, looked up, and clearly saw a red mark on the side of his neck. My body reacted faster than my mind. I raised my hand and slapped him across the face. Daniel's cheek flushed. He froze, stunned, but didn't get angry. He lowered his head and apologized humbly. Does your hand hurt? It's all my fault, Carolina. He took my hand in his, lowered his eyes and gently massaged my reddened palm. Feel a little better now, Carolina? Sometimes I wondered, maybe I should never have gone into that study. Shouldn't have accidentally discovered Daniel's old diary. Shouldn't have opened Pandora's box. Then I wouldn't find myself thinking of Evelyn in every tender moment. Wouldn't remember the young Daniel in his early 20s, writing after every fight with Evelyn. A girlfriend's emotions come first, soothe her and everything will work itself out. Don't argue when angry. If you're wrong, apologize right away. The previous woman planted the tree, and I now sat in its shade. But was I enjoying the shade, or forever living in someone else's shadow? I shook off Daniel's hand, in complete calm. I said, look over the divorce agreement, and let's finalize it, soon. Chapter 09. Daniel refused to get a divorce, so I refused to speak to him, which gave Evelyn the perfect opening to show up at my doorstep and play her little games. I didn't ask the housekeeper to serve her tea, and she didn't bother with politeness. She sat right down on the sofa. Evelyn looked at me with a smile in her eyes. Carolina, she said, I heard from Danny that you're a bit upset about his relationship with me, but Danny and I are history. Really, the past doesn't matter. What matters is living well in the present. I didn't respond, just watched her. Evelyn hadn't finished her solo performance. She sighed. Danny wasn't like this before. Back when we fought, he would never apologize first. We argued so many times. It took a huge blowout before he finally learned to say sorry. And by the time he learned to lower his pride, we had already drifted apart. She looked at me, eyes glistening with unshed tears, her voice trembling. Carolina, do you know how much I envy you? I took a sip of tea and replied calmly. Then maybe it wasn't love. Otherwise, why would he always be the first to apologize when we fight? Evelyn choked for a moment. A flicker of irritation flashed across her delicate features. Just then, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, then smiled. Danny messaged me. Carolina, I'll talk to him for you too. Help him see reason. Don't be mad anymore, okay? I lowered my gaze. After I heard the sound of the door closing behind her, I pulled out my phone and sent Daniel a message. Want to watch the fireworks together? Chapter 10. For the first time in a long while, I softened. Daniel agreed without hesitation. It happened to be a holiday. People were flocking to the beach. Vendors lined the street, selling beautiful lanterns and delicious street food. The air was thick with the scent of grilled snacks and sugar. The buzz of voices filled the night. I've always loved this kind of bustling, down-to-earth atmosphere. When Daniel and I had just gotten married, I used to think he was perfect, just lacking that spark of everyday life, always buried in work. But then the cold, gray-toned house gradually brightened with my colors, and the man who had once known only work began to enjoy weekends and street food. Back then, my silly grin was full of joy. Growing old with Daniel became a wish on my life's to-do list. The night market was crowded, and Daniel kept close to protect me. Whatever I pointed at, he bought without a word. We looked just like the most ordinary couple in the world. As the time neared 8, the crowd moved toward the beach. Daniel held my hand and led me to the viewing platform. Below us, the crowd began to count down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The fireworks shot into the sky. They burst open, dazzling, grand. The cheers of the crowd rose like a wave. I looked up. Daniel stood behind me, gently covering my ears with his hands. So thoughtful. 21-year-old Daniel once watched the same kind of fireworks. Beside Evelyn, amid the cheers and lights, he looked at her profile, and suddenly, he wanted, so badly, to marry her. Then he said, Eve, I love you. I love you, Carolina. I laughed through my tears. Chapter 11. As the last firework faded, the crowd began to quiet. Daniel's phone started ringing, the sound gradually growing louder. I turned to him. He looked down. Our eyes met. I could see my reflection in his eyes. It's her, I said calmly, like stating a fact. Let me guess the excuse this time. Can't work the appliances? Got lost again? Or is it a crazy fan at her window? Daniel's brow furrowed. He looked away. The phone kept ringing. I smiled. Voice soft. Stop lying to yourself. Danny, you can't let go of your first love. That's not true. Daniel looked up, hurriedly trying to deny it. I didn't respond. I reached over and picked up his phone, pressing the answer button. Evelyn's voice rang out clearly through the noise around us. Danny? Danny, I think someone's knocking on my window. I'm so scared. Her voice was laced with trembling sobs. Danny, could it be a stalker? I handed the phone to Daniel, my expression calm. Go. When you come back, we'll sign the divorce papers. Daniel didn't move. Evelyn was still crying. Even her sobs sounded perfectly tragic. A film queen through and through. Daniel frowned deeper but said nothing. I used to hope over and over that Daniel would choose me, firmly and without hesitation. But now? I didn't need that anymore. I looked down and sent Daniel a message. His phone buzzed in his hand. He opened it. His brows knit even tighter. Carolina. It was a set of photos taken by the entertainment reporter these past few days. I looked at him and smiled. Eyes curved like crescent moons. I don't want to tear things apart either. It's ugly when it gets messy. And no one's happy. You don't want those photos going public. Do you? Daniel was silent. Finally, he just looked at me and sighed. Carolina, let's both cool down for now. Chapter 12. I watched Daniel's retreating figure and sent another message to the entertainment reporter. A short while later, I got a reply. He went to find Evelyn. The next day was the press conference for Evelyn's official comeback film. Emotionally and professionally, Daniel had every reason to attend and ensure her safety. I switched over to Instagram and watched the heat on Evelyn's trending tags climb steadily. The press conference was live-streamed across the internet. Evelyn's first movie since her return to the spotlight had been hyped to the max. And Daniel, as an investor, appeared on stage with her. When I arrived, the atmosphere was lively. At first, Daniel stood quietly off to the side. But the director, a master at reading the room, kept nudging people around until Daniel was pushed right next to Evelyn. I checked the livestream viewer count, then switched back to Instagram. Hashtag the CEO male lead just got real. Hashtag girls look at that watch on President Song's wrist. Hashtag the whole world is a giant romance novel. Hashtag Evelyn Daniel. Hashtag I approve this marriage. I saw the explosive hot tag appear next to their names. Viewers flooded into the live stream to ship the couple. Suddenly, a reporter stood up to ask, Miss Sue, rumor has it you and President Song were classmates. Is that true? If so, isn't it suspicious that President Song is promoting you this heavily? Daniel's face turned cold. The director wiped the sweat from his brow and hurriedly clarified. Miss Sue earned her lead role with her acting. When she won Best Actress years ago, I already wanted to cast her. I couldn't hold it in. I laughed. All acting? Huh? It was a small laugh, but Daniel still noticed it from the stage. I met his gaze and lifted my phone. Then, slowly and clearly, mouthed the words, divorce. Or, I go on stage and expose everything. Emotional cheating within a marriage. These photos, paired with the poor, wronged wife and dropped at the peak of media frenzy. That would be more than enough to ruin him, whether it was for Daniel's own sake or Evelyn's future. He couldn't afford that gamble. My phone buzzed. I looked down. A message from him. Clenched teeth practically audible through the screen. Fine. Chapter 13. The day we finalized the divorce agreement was calm and quiet. Sunlight streamed through the glass onto the marble floor. Daniel pushed the laptop toward me. Carolina, I know you're still angry and don't want to hear me out. But stocks are more. I don't need them. I cut him off. I knew Daniel meant well. Stocks would be more stable than cash over time, with steady annual dividends. But I had my own plans. Daniel lowered his eyes. He wasn't upset by my tone. He remained gentle. This agreement looks fine now. Then let's print it and sign. His secretary brought the documents in a few minutes later. I signed without hesitation. Daniel paused for a moment before signing, then looked at me with a calm expression. Carolina, do you know what I wished for on my birthday last year? I didn't look at him. I wished that we would grow old together. Wishes don't work once you say them out loud. Daniel, he smiled indulgently, lowered his head, and signed. They will. It started as a marriage of family interests. But let's begin again. This time, let's go through every step of falling in love properly, okay? I didn't answer. I simply put the signed papers away. Be there on time tomorrow. Daniel. Chapter 14. I didn't want to be around Daniel during the cooling off period. So I bought a plane ticket and flew abroad. On the day we were scheduled to collect the divorce certificate, my sister came to pick me up. Daniel opened the car door for me, nodded politely to my sister, and reminded me, Carolina, eat more fruits and vegetables. Your dark circles are getting worse. I pretended not to hear and rolled up the car window. 2 blocks later, as we waited at a red light, Daniel messaged me, I'll ask Aunt Zhao to prepare your favorite tremella and lily soup this afternoon. My sister glanced sideways at me. So decisive? I thought you'd go soft on him. I didn't reply. I just turned my phone face down and smiled at her. Sis, I got you a gift. Chapter 15. Daniel really did follow through on what he said after the divorce. He always knew my preferences well. Everything he sent me was exactly what I liked. But I was busy setting up my art exhibition, so I had my assistant toss all the gifts into the storage room. Daniel would appear out of nowhere now and then. The man who used to be endlessly busy suddenly had too much time on his hands. Like a loafer wandering the streets, while I was arranging the exhibit in the hall, he stood outside watching me silently. Only when I was about to leave would he say he wanted to walk me home. I refused every time. Because of the exhibit, I pulled several all-nighters. When I fainted, I didn't even realize it. Only when I opened my eyes to the cold white ceiling of the hospital did the discomfort hit me. I struggled to sit up. The movement stirred the person who had been napping beside me, his hand still holding mine. Daniel looked up. When he saw I was awake, his expression lit up with relief. Carolina, you're awake. I looked at him. I used to love Daniel's composed elegance, like someone who had everything under control, as refined as jade and as steady as pine. But now, that man looked worn down. Have you been here this whole time? Yes. Daniel lowered his gaze and pulled my hand close to his cheek, like it was something fragile and precious. Let me stay by your side. Carolina, you've lost so much weight. Are you not eating properly again? You didn't get sick for so long, but as soon as we separated, how can I not worry? I didn't say yes, didn't say no. I just reached out and smoothed the crease in his collar. Chapter 16. My attitude toward Daniel softened, just a little. So when he asked me out, I didn't say no. Truthfully, Daniel's methods of reconciliation weren't clever. He'd never had to win someone back before. Not even Evelyn. Even when they broke up, he didn't lower himself. He never tried to hold on. Not even when it ended in regret. After dinner, Daniel took me for a walk on the beach. He instinctively reached out, then froze, realizing what he was doing. My gaze landed on his hand. I smiled. He pulled it back, his face shadowed by disappointment. We walked slowly along the shore. The sea breeze brushed our cheeks gently. Everything was calm, like the time when we were still in love. Then a sudden roar broke the silence. I looked up. Light flared in the distant sky, forming words. Carolina, I'm sorry. I turned and met Daniel's eyes. The fireworks shimmered in his pupils, bright and clear. Carolina, my first love was when I was 16. I cut him off. I was shy back in school, so we kept it secret. We didn't go public until I turned 18. At 18, you think love is supposed to be wild and dramatic. He once lit a massive fireworks show for me. My parents found out and froze his card for a month. Daniel's eyes dimmed. We tied wish charms for each other at a temple, confessed loudly over the roar of engines, talked all night on a deserted beach. Then, 2 years after our wedding, I ran into him on the street again. I looked at Daniel, my tone steady. That day he messaged me, said he missed me. I never replied. People who've truly loved each other can't be just friends. I was afraid Daniel wouldn't like it. I thought a proper ex should be as good as dead. I assumed everyone held the same standard of empathy. But I was wrong. What I cared about was never the past. It was Daniel's current inability to draw boundaries with his ex. Daniel's expression turned awkward, like he wanted to explain but didn't know where to begin. I smiled. But it's different for you too. A peaceful breakup and a betrayal are never the same. Those who break hearts may not swallow 1,000 needles. But morally rotten people must still face the world's condemnation. I looked out at the roaring sea, my eyes curving with amusement. I said, "From now on, she'll be your most unforgettable white moonlight." Daniel. Chapter 17. Hashtag Evelyn the other woman. Hashtag Daniel's secret marriage. Hashtag Evelyn bought her way in. Hashtag can you grow up a little. The trending tags about cheating, secret marriage, and being a simp for a pretentious coquette exploded across the internet. Thousands of netizens flooded Evelyn's livestream, spamming her so hard she was forced to shut it down mid-broadcast. Daniel scrambled for damage control, but couldn't stop the plummeting stock prices. And really, what was there to defend? The photos, texts, timelines, everything was laid out plainly. It was undeniable Evelyn got entangled with a married man before she'd even finalized her own divorce. Fake accounts tried to muddy the waters, but netizens weren't fools. No one bought it, while Daniel was buried in chaos. I was lounging in my sister Julia's office, happily munching on snacks. Julia was buried in her own stack of work. I opened a new bag of chips. She looked up and snapped, "Do you have to eat right in front of me?" Grinning, I offered her a chip like a tribute. Julia didn't stop flipping through documents. I asked, "Do you like your gift, sis?" Julia glanced at me, smiling with a wicked glint. "Love it." Daniel's company had become a lamb to the slaughter. Everyone was circling like sharks. Business wars are dirty. And my sister? She's a master of the game. All I did was light the match, and rumors exploded like wildfire, fueling Daniel's company's downfall. The man on TV looked more haggard by the day. A far cry from the elegant, refined CEO he used to be. Chapter 18. Evelyn didn't fare any better. Her reputation in the entertainment industry crumbled. The castle hadn't even finished building before it collapsed. I ran into her on the way back from my art exhibit. She somehow found out where I lived. Wearing sunglasses and a mask, she suddenly appeared, grabbing my hand, even through the lenses. Her swollen eyes were obvious. "Miss Lynn," she begged. "Miss Lynn, it's all my fault. I'm sorry." I clung to Mr. Song. I was delusional, greedy for money and hope. I was shameless, trying to win him back. "It's all my fault. I wronged you. Please. I'm begging you. Let me go. I deserve to suffer." "But Mr. Song, he only loves you now. I'm the one who should disappear. Please. Let me go." Her sobs were more convincing now than on any stage. I looked at her tear-streaked face, the way she nearly knelt, trembling and desperate, reaching out. I removed her sunglasses. Her once beautiful almond eyes were now swollen like walnuts, one side of her face red and blotchy. The dark circles beneath her eyes made her look sick. So pitiful, so wretched. I pulled a tissue from my bag and gently wiped away one of her tears. Evelyn stared at me, dazed, then clutched my hand even tighter. "Miss Lynn, please, don't ruin me. I can't go back to that life. I just wanted a divorce. I just wanted to return to acting. Please." Her tears wouldn't stop. I pulled my hand back and smiled. "Miss Sue, the bitter fruit of your own making should be swallowed whole. You can hit me if that makes you feel better. Anything you want. Miss Lynn, I know you hate me. Do whatever you want to get your anger out. I was the one who didn't know my place and wrecked your marriage." "Wrong," I said gently. "I don't hate you. I never hated Evelyn. I just disliked her. She was never the one who owed me love. She never betrayed the marriage. The one who truly wronged me wasn't her. From beginning to end, I only hated one person. But now, karma has done its job. I've let go of both love and hate." I looked at her and smiled. "Miss Sue, next time you trespass on private property, I'll call the police." Chapter 19. By the time Daniel went bankrupt, I was already out of the country. At the airport, my sister came to see me off. She looked me over and asked, "Not sticking around to watch the fireworks?" "If I were you," she added, "I'd show up in full glam. Toast to his downfall. No money, no dignity, best case scenario. He keels over from rage and spends his next life stuck in a hospital bed, old and helpless, getting slapped around by a fed-up nurse." I gave her a thumbs up. That's the spirit. Classic you. Julia laughed softly. Shame I've got a meeting I can't skip. One of the industry giants called, and I couldn't turn it down. I smiled, shrugged. Then do me a favor, will you? Send him flowers on my behalf. The biggest bouquet money can buy. Congratulations on the collapse. A month later, a call from an unknown number flashed on my screen. I was curled up on the couch. I let the ringtone play all the way to the final note. Didn't bother picking up. 2 hours after that, my sister called. We exchanged a few pleasantries. Then she cut to the point. Daniel's looking for you. I told him you're abroad. She gave a dry chuckle. Apparently, bankruptcy wasn't the end of it. He's swimming in debt now, liquidating everything just to stay afloat. When I saw him today, for a second I honestly thought he might try dragging me down with him. I laughed out loud. And? He just asked where you were, she said, then handed me a box. Said it's for you. I didn't open it. It's in my desk drawer. Remind me when you're back. I lowered my gaze and answered with a quiet okay, then steered the conversation somewhere else entirely. Chapter 20. 6 months later, I returned home. Didn't tell my sister until I was already in the lobby of her office building. Her secretary took me upstairs. When Julia saw me, she feigned a bit of annoyance. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I would have picked you up. I wouldn't dare trouble our VIP. I smiled, placing a small gift on her desk. Brought you something. Julia accepted it with a grin. I'll open it later with Mom and Dad, see who got the best gift from you. Oh, right. She pulled open a drawer and took out a small velvet box. Simple, but unmistakably elegant. From Daniel. One glance, and I already knew what it was. I had returned it when we separated. I didn't reach for it, just smiled. Sell it. Julia paused, looked at me, then opened the box. A ring, I added. The wedding ring. Of course. Julia shook her head and laughed. Sold everything, but he kept this. Not cheap. I said. Let's split the proceeds 50-50. Sentimental item like this, I thought you'd be a little soft-hearted. I shrugged. I wasn't the one who ruined the marriage. Julia beamed and pulled me into a hug. Come on. Sis is taking you to eat something good tonight. Okay. We shared a smile. Outside the window, the sun was shining just right.